Hi, this is David Dulany with Tenbound, walking you through the Tenbound data cleansing prioritization framework that we developed for a top performing sales development team. And through our research, we noticed that one of the big differentiators in success of a sales development team is how they deal with data. What most sales development teams do is they throw unstructured data into a database, give it to the SDRs, and basically tell them to become researchers basically, and the SDRs end up spending most of their day pushing buttons and doing research instead of actually interacting with clients or prospects. And so something to think about is breaking up that process into this framework so that you can make sure that you have the most efficient pipeline engine available versus the way that it's done usually, which is a very slow, methodical process that doesn't work as well as it could. So the way that we think about it is you've got tasks, you've got investments and time, you've got tools, and then you've got a responsible party. And so when we think about tasks, you want to start with your account list. What are the top accounts that you are interested in and that you want to break into from an outbound perspective? And how are they cleaned and organized in your database for maximum productivity? And so you want to make sure that this account list is prioritized in a way and refreshed that it maximizes the potential for the best pipeline result and sales results. And this usually it's going to take at least a week to do. You're going to need an initial data source and you're going to need a responsible party. We recommend having someone in marketing be in charge of this on a quarterly basis, that they're spending the time to make sure that the right accounts are in the database and they're prioritized in a way that's most meaningful for the company. Next, within the account list, there's going to be people that are involved in the decision-making process in your outbound strategy. And so this could be different for each of the different verticals that you're going after or the different business lines. There's going to be different people, different titles, and those people are constantly changing. So you want to make sure that you've got the right people attached to the right accounts in your database and that they've got phone numbers and emails that are directionally correct for the SDR team. This is going to take at least a week. You're going to need to further cleanse the data source. And again, this should be taken care of by someone in the marketing department who is in charge of the freshness of the data and ensuring that you've got the right data. Next, you need someone to go through and manually check that. So once again, we're cleansing. We're making sure that the accounts data is correct. We're making sure that the persona data is correct. We're making sure that we're able to connect people. And this is a manual process that must be completed day in and day out because people are constantly changing. Accounts are closing, they're merging, they're going bankrupt. They're changing their name, they're changing their headquarters, they're going remote. People are constantly changing, they're going from job to job in 1 year to 18 months. Their titles are changing, they're doing different things. So someone has to be continually going through and researching to make sure. And this is an ongoing process. It's a manual process, and that's taken care of by a researcher, not necessarily an SDR. And I'll tell you why. Because this does not include interacting with people and writing messaging and talking to people and finding out if they're currently considering vendors or they're looking for a solution to a pain point. This is really about database updating and making sure that you're teeing up the SDRs for the best possible results. So another feature of this is marking the status correctly in the system. And when you think about, are they in market right now? Are they not looking? Are they not interested? Are they, did they tell you to call back in 6 months? Are they at the end of a contract cycle? All of this stuff needs to be documented in the database based on the activities that are happening, and there has to be someone doing that, and that could be the researcher, and it's also the SDR, because the SDR is on the phone and interacting digitally to find out this information. And so they're going to be updating it as well. So that's kind of a shared role between the researcher and the SDR. Next, finally, we get to the real nitty gritty of what an SDR does, which is contact and revalidate. So their main role should really be to be interacting with people as much as possible, having conversations, interacting via email, interacting via digital channels. And this is usually going to be housed in their sales engagement platform. So there's dozens of sales engagement platforms that are on the Tenbound market map. And some of the top players in the industry work very well with managing the contact and revalidate process. They can set up a list that is being worked week by week by the SDR to make sure that they're calling enough people, they're talking to enough people, they're sending out enough emails, they're personalizing the emails correctly, and that can all be managed through the sales engagement platform. So that should be where the SDRs are spending a bulk of their day, in interacting with people and having conversations. This is the hardest part of the job, and what we see time and time again with low performing SDR teams is that they're spending all of their time on the left side of this framework and very little time actually interacting with people. So we want to really focus them on interacting with people. And then finally, um, once we have that information, now we can put it into the sales engagement platform and refresh it, or even put it into some of the auto dialer systems for more high volume outreach. And there's a whole quadrant as well in the market map on auto dialers that they need to have pure, clean contact information, pure, clean phone numbers in order to be successful. And if you put a bunch of garbage into an auto dialer, you're going to be very frustrated and you're not going to be talking to the right people. So it has to go through a cleansing process. Then now you can put it in. And in this case, the operations team is very critical. And actually, all through this, from a project management perspective and a reporting perspective, the operations team is really in charge of making sure that the reporting and project management is happening in a way that's scalable and repeatable and informative to executives. Because mainly, if the team is big enough, the project manager in this case will be the SDR manager. And the SDR manager needs to spend most of their time working with the SDRs, coaching, helping rewrite messaging, listening to calls, and really acting as sort of a player coach versus someone who needs to do each of these steps and create reporting and dashboards to be able to know how we're flowing through the framework. So very clear delineation on who's responsible, very clear delineation on what they should be doing, how much it costs, how much time is involved, and which tools. And so if you're new to this and you're taking a step back, one thing that I would think about is, if you have headcount for multiple SDRs, to think about breaking off one person to take care of where it says marketing and researcher, that they can be in charge of the list. They can be in charge of manually validating the list and then teeing it up for the rest of the team to make sure that the SDR team is not spending all their time or majority of their day doing research. As you become more sophisticated, then you can actually work with the marketing team to get some help with the list. And I would also think about down the line, if you're getting more than 5 or 6 SDRs, to have a dedicated ops team to really focus on the bottom part of this, because it's just so critical. And it's very easy for these projects to just sort of go for a while and then spin out and not have anybody really working on the reporting and the project management. And that could be a role for a strong revenue operations person that's dedicated specifically to sales development. So some very important things to think about. If you have any questions about this, leave a comment below or hit us up on tenbound.com for a free consultation to see how you're doing in pushing this forward. And I really appreciate you listening. Thanks.